We all know that there's things that we can do that are particularly beneficial to our mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. And yet, when it comes to actually putting them into practice, it can be a whole other kettle of fish. There is a significant difference between knowing and between actually doing. And I suppose now more than ever before, we need to be taking care of ourselves. We need to be getting adequate sleep. We need to be looking after our nutrition. We need to be staying on top of where we're at emotionally and treating it compassionately. We need to be getting exercise. We need to be getting fresh air, and we need to be having positive connections with other people. And yet, we're finding it harder than ever to apply these practices, or at least that's what I'm hearing back from people. And I think the underlying uncertainty is really getting under people's skin. It's really causing, a heightened state of anxiety and trepidation for a future that we know nothing about. I mean, people are used to feeling that there's a certain level of control there, and all of a sudden that rug has been pulled out from under your feet, and it can be really difficult to deal with. And I suppose add to that all of the additional stressors that we're under. We're working from home in conditions where we may have kids under our feet who also need to be homeschooled. We may be experiencing relationship conflict because of being in close quarters all of the time. Anything that comes up, there's no escapism. And so we may find ourselves turning to old coping mechanisms, whether it be food, whether it be alcohol, drugs, porn, our phone, numbing out through Instagram, spending an hour there and then coming off it feeling completely inadequate about yourself. And it's so easy how quickly we slip into bad habits, or habits that aren't particularly beneficial to us, as opposed to bad habits. And it's about applying a little bit of curiosity to that. First of all, recognizing that it's completely normal to want to avoid sitting with the anxiety of the current pandemic, because we just don't know how to deal with it. There's no protocol for how to kind of process this. We're basically painting by numbers, and there is no set way or set rules for how we do this. There never is, but I think sometimes we assume that there is. We look to other people and see what they're doing, and we're like, okay, sure, I'll just do that and hope it turns out for the best. And yet nobody now seems to really have any knowledge of what to do. However, if you can just reduce it down to a very moment by moment level, checking in with yourself on a regular basis, asking yourself, what can I do for myself in this given moment? Can I take a few deep breaths? Can I hydrate myself? Can I nourish myself with something? Can I connect with my partner and my kids as opposed to disconnecting from them? Can I avoid just numbing out on my phone for another 15 minutes? It's also asking yourself the question, why wouldn't you want to treat yourself well? Because oftentimes I think one of the things that stands between us and taking care of ourselves is our sense of worth, is our belief that we deserve to be treated well, that we deserve to take care of ourselves, that we deserve to look after ourselves. And so we tend to kind of stuff our body with all of this kind of what we think is soothing material, whether it be chocolate, whether it be whatever it is that gives you that kick or that numbs you out for a few moments, as opposed to just taking a breath and asking ourselves, what's actually going on for me at this very moment that I don't want to have to cope with? Why is it that I don't want to take care of myself? And I think sometimes we're running away from what might actually come up from us, particularly when it comes to meditative practices. We assume that when we sit down to meditate, it's going to give us some sort of relief. And yet the reality is, I sit down for meditations and oftentimes I get up feeling 100 times worse, because I actually expose myself to all of the things that I was avoiding with the busyness of my life. And for a long time that really pissed me off. I felt really frustrated with it. I was like, Jesus, like, what's the point of this? But it was only when I recognized that those feelings weren't going anywhere, so I had to learn to sit with them if I was ever going to experience any bit of peace whatsoever, that I began to kind of enjoy that bit of time where I sat down down and let whatever was going to come just come, and learn to be with it as opposed to trying to let it go and instead just gripping it onto it even tighter and attaching myself to this desire to be free of any pain or of any struggle, you know. And again, it's about the expectations that we have for ourselves. Oftentimes we don't take care of ourselves because we have this assumption that our lives are going to be perfect if we just do X, Y, or Z, you know, that we're not going to feel any pain. And when we put them in place for a few days and we're not really feeling all that significantly different, or we still have a fight with our partner, or we still don't like our bodies, or whatever it is that's going on with us, we think, oh, fuck this, it's not working. And it's about recognizing that all of these things are incremental, you know, they take time, they take consistency, and as well as that, you're never going to be fully fixed because you're not all that broken. Everyone is a little bit broken, but that's just how we are. That's part and parcel of being human. And if we can just do small little kind things for ourselves on a daily basis, as opposed to applying this perfectionist standard to caring for ourselves or to doing the things that we know is good for us, then we are more likely to be consistent, and we are more likely to do nice things and kind things for other people, you know, because again, it has to start with yourself. If you're not showing yourself compassion and kindness and care, it's very hard to apply it to anybody else in a regular and meaningful way. So it's about doing little things. It's about taking a few minutes just to breathe every day. It's taking a few moments just to check in with yourself. It's trying to put in place even a 30-second meditation where you can just try and, I suppose, observe and witness what it is that's going on for you, as opposed to being on autopilot like the full 16 hours a day that you're awake. And the smaller you make it, the easier it is to stay consistent. So as I said, some people are like, well, there's no way 30 seconds of meditation is going to make any sort of difference, or there's no way, you know, running for 5 minutes or walking for 10 is going to make any real difference in my life, or, you know, eating the odd bit of fruit. It has to be all or nothing. And again, this is the way we think about a lot of things. We have very black and white thinking processes which aren't always that beneficial. Whereas if we can kind of lower our expectations and start off crazy small, making changes to our life that are going to be beneficial to us in the long run, and that if we can just get started on them, will make it so much easier for us to continue. Because again, you know, every run starts with you just putting on your trainers, and if you do that and step outside the door, which that's half the journey. Likewise, you know, every healthy eating plan starts with one healthy meal, and it doesn't have to be, you know, just a plate of lettuce, but just a little bit more veg into your day, or, you know, any of these things, they all add up. And it's being very understanding and compassionate with yourself in the things that you do. Likewise, the journaling, you don't have to sit down and write Anne Frank's diary at night. If you can just write down 4 or 5 lines about what your day is like, or what you hope tomorrow is like. Even with your prayers, like oftentimes my prayers are just very, okay, I wish good for whoever it is in my life. I, you know, ask for help in this area of my life. It's literally only a 30-second thing, but all of these things add up to feeling a little bit better, and those little bit betters become a lot better over time. Also, be very specific about your resistance. You know, try to really clarify the reasons why you don't want to do something, because oftentimes we tell ourselves, oh, I'm not going to like it, you know, and I mean, that's such a vague statement. Whereas if you can be very specific with the reason why you don't want to implement something that is good for you, or the reason you don't want to get in touch with what it is that you're really feeling, then you will be a lot better off, you know. So be very specific, clarify, put a plan in place, make it crazy small, little steps at a time, and be consistent, and you will feel so much better in the long run.